Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in today to talk about Link Click. Today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 2, or as the episode is titled itself, Night Raid. So, this is sort of a newer series on the channel with me talking about Link Click episodes whenever I sort of feel like it, because if you don't know, at the release of this episode, or this, video, we are already on Episode 10, and I'm covering Episode 2. So if you can't tell, I'm a few behind, but I'm going to try to fix that as we just keep going along. But I really like Link Click, so we're just going to hop on into it because I think this is a very fun series. So what happened last time on Link Click is really the big question here. So we sort of got the aftermath of what happened at the end of Season 1. We saw that Shíguāng and Kuao Li, who was possessed by the mysterious possessor, had sort of a little bit of a fight until eventually Shíguāng was apprehended and was taken into custody under the police force that Zhao Li and his assistant Chen Bing sort of operate under, right? So he was under their command, and Liu Yang had just been stabbed, or yeah, it's a Liu Yang, I'm pretty sure it is. But Liu had just been stabbed, so it's like, oh no, is Liu alive? Oh no, spoiler alert, he is. They did some clever misdirection in the episode to fake it out for Liu Ming's death, because Liu Ming is dead, so that's pretty fun. But we pretty much learn and know that they all meet up at the end of the episode, and the big sort of reveal is that Chen Bing gets possessed by this possessor, and he falls off of a building and dies behind Zhao Li. He pretty much falls onto a car, which is a pretty terrible way to go as far as, like, falling off buildings. Like, I would feel like, at least if you fell off, like, at least it's like a blunt object. You sort of just hit it. It's got a little bit of a crumple, so you may survive, but you are still dead. So that's the whole deal here, right? And another very important thing to mention about last episode was we met this mysterious detective guy, and in this episode, we really learn what his name is. So just to go and say it now, so I don't have to be like, oh, who is this dude? This is Officer Jean, which is a little interesting, but we'll get into why all of that is here in a second, right? So this episode starts off with the very weird, as always, is like, hey, we're Liu and Shíguāng of the Time Photo Studio. Make sure to follow us on all of the places. Sure, it's just that weird thing that they're doing at the beginning of every episode here, so it's like, okay, sure, we'll take it, right? But the first big thing we see is Officer Jean on the phone with Liu Ming's father. He sort of is talking on the phone, and we sort of hear that Liu Ming's dad's like, hey, get that phone back no matter what, right? That's got all of the precious information we need on it, right? Make sure that thing doesn't get into bad hands. You hear me? You hear me, right? And Jean's just like, hey, that's not how it works. That phone is now evidence. We'll do what we can, and I'll promise you, we will get it back. It's sort of this very important moment of, okay, what's going on here, right? And eventually we see that Jin walks up and rings a doorbell, right? And who else would open the door but Chen Bing's pregnant wife, as we see that he has gone to Chen Bing's house, right? And as soon as she opens the door, it's like, hey, how's it going, guys? And the other thing to mention is that Officer Chen has another sort of unnamed grunt with him, who sort of just got, like, this poorly done sort of, like, beard mustache thing, right? It's, like, sort of like stubble in a way. Not fully grown in or whatever. And this guy's carrying a box of apples for the Chin, or the Bean family. I don't know what you call it, right? But they're taking in a box of apples to see her, right? At this point, the opening, which is Vortex by Jaws, plays. Again, phenomenal opening, great animation, great song. Just like a 10 out of 10 opening altogether, right? That's pretty fun. And then we get the 3D sort of rendered space shot as we get the name of the Night Raid episode. And hey, a Night Raid will happen. So as we get on, there's pretty much this big thing where Chen Bing's wife and Officer Jean, they're all talking, and as everything is going on, right, they sort of just like talk about some stuff, and we pretty much learned that Officer Jean used to be part of the police academy, or yeah, he used to be a part of the police force, and he worked with Shaolin, which is pretty interesting, right? And he also did some training on Xiao Bing, and there's this sort of bigger idea where he's like, have you heard of the, case that, Chen Bing's working on? And she's like, no, he keeps very tight-lipped about that, and Jean's like, oh, that's something I taught him. That's good that he's sort of keeping that trait with him, right? And we pretty much just learn about the academy that he used to be a part of, right? And how he quit the police force, and he is now a lawyer. And he's like, yeah, it was probably a good decision I made, because Officer Shao always gets the very hard cases, and because of that, that's why Qin probably isn't coming home, right? Because as they're all talking, right, she's just like, well, I'm sure you didn't come here just to see me. I'm sure you wanted to talk to Qin Bean, so I'll give him a call for you. And we see that, yeah, she gives this call, and he answers, and it is the answer that we got whenever Qin and Xing were in the car last episode, right? Whenever his wife called and Qin answered the phone, it's the same exact call here. So it's sort of the same exact call. We hear the exact same thing. And at this point, Gene's pretty much like, yeah, the hard cases, the call from last episode and everything going on. And eventually, he's pretty much just like, hey, well, I'm sure that you didn't want to see us, so we'll be heading out, but we did bring some apples for your family, right? So they go in, and he's just like, hey, unnamed guy, go take the apples in the kitchen, right? But as he goes and takes the apple in the kitchen, we see that he starts to do something else, but we don't really see what it is, right? And we pretty much see that there's this other sort of big note showing how much Qin is wanting to be a father, because he's got all these stuffed animals around the house, and it's just pretty much saying like, oh, they look like it's going to be a girl, but Qin Bean's wife pretty much explains that we don't really know the full scope of it yet, but Qin Bean is really hoping for a daughter. He just really wants a daughter, and it's this big idea to where she's like, he always uses that mantra of fate changes fate. So if he wants to be a daughter, I'm sure he'll will it into this world, and that's pretty much the whole big idea there, right? And at this point, we sort of cut back over to Qing and Qin, who have just gotten to the hospital where Lu is. Of course, Qin doesn't know that Lu is really alive yet. He still thinks that he's dead. So he has this moment where he's just going, and he gets given clothes by Qin to put on. So he goes to put them on, and in the bottom of the bag, there is another stuffed deer in the bottom of it, right? And it's this really big thing to where Qin's just like, oh, I'm sure he didn't get this to me, but Qin Bean's just like, hey, it's for my daughter, right? I just something for her, even though she's not born yet, right? I'm sure she'll enjoy it in due time, right? Obviously giving us the idea that, yeah, he really wanted a family, and he had a lot to live for. And, oh no, in the present, we know what's happened to him, right? But at this point, we cut back to the sort of past, and because we know this happened in the past, where Gene is talking to Qin Bean's wife, and Jin and the guy are just like, all right, we'll just go and leave right now, right? No other point for us to be here. So as they start to leave, they just sort of leave, and pretty much the dude, as they're walking away, is like, oh man, the boss is really gonna love this. I nabbed a picture, right? As he nabbed a picture of Qin Bean and his wife. So like, okay, why did they do that? As you're like, man, the acting boss is gonna love you for all this stuff. I mean, you just did such a good job, right? And Captain Gene's just like, hey, don't you ever speak about me in that way ever again, you hear me? So we're just like showing that he really isn't a good person, that he is an asshole at the same time, even if he just put on this nice, calm, and cool demeanor for Qin Bean's wife. But most importantly, they now have a picture. And as they go around, we cut back to the sort of past present, as we sort of see that this is when Qin sort of gives Jin a call back, like, hey, I'm super sorry I missed you. Work's just getting really, really busy. And as they're just talking on the phone, it's nothing of really plot importance, just showing that they did have a little bit of contact. We see that Qing comes out of things like he's got all of his clothes ready, and they're ready to go see Lu. So Qing's like, all right, hey, Jin, I'm going to have to hang up, and I'll talk to you another time, right? That happens, and at this point, we sort of see that Gene has a picture, and he walks up to a car and gives it to a guy, right? And this guy is in a hoodie, and really the only thing we can tell about him is that he has yellow hair. Pretty much saying that this is probably the other killer, right? This is probably the mastermind behind the entire plot to do with Emma and everything that the first season dealt with. This is the other person who can dive into photos, and this is the killer. Pretty much showing you, yeah, photos, things, yeah, this guy's probably the killer. So he gives him that phone, and all of a sudden, we cut back to the hospital room to really what we ended off the episode on last time, with Lu, Qing, Kao, or however you say a name, Xiao Li, and Qin Bean. They're all in the room, and they're pretty much just talking about it, right? And Officer Shíguāng gives a lot of information that we didn't really get last time. He pretty much just explains that this is a brand new hospital, right? Which has major advantages to these people. Number one, nobody other than staff will be around here in the hospital, right? There's no other patients to really get in. So if anybody's in this hospital that we don't want, we obviously know who they are and that they are not good people, right? He also says this camera has a brand new video feed system installed in it. So pretty much, he's like, there's cameras all around. I made each of you three an account on the network so you guys can look and see everything going on in the area, which, of course, will come into play with not only Chin, but who's his face's powers, Lu's powers, to sort of be like a direct divine overseer of an entire camera to area. So as all of that's going in, we sort of get the idea that everything's going on and that the what am I trying to say? That pretty much what happened, the way they were able to get Lu admitted, is that they had to call in some sort of parents in a way. And they call in the two people from the episode 5.5 that, of course, we never got here in the States. That seems like it's the most important episode, even though we just don't have it. And it's the episode where the martial arts sort of family happened. And we sort of see that they got called in to be sort of Lu's parents. And it's sort of this very funny thing to where they sort of said a lot of wrong things, like, oh no, this young man here is even our father, right? But the nurse is like, he looks young enough to be your grandchild. What's going on here, right? So it's a little bit of confusing, like, haha, that's funny, some just slapstick comedy in a way, right? But as everything's going on, they pretty much explain that they came in, and that's why Lu was able to be admitted here. But Ching just starts to talk like, hey, so here's the deal. She said that person said, like, they could steal powers and that they use photos also. So they have to use photos as a mean for their power too. Pretty much putting 2 to 2 together and telling it to everybody, right? Pretty much making a massive assumption, right? And Shane's just like, so I went ahead and deleted all of our information online. Pretty much his and Lu's information about the Time Photo Studio. Pretty much deleted everything, which sort of is a question like, okay, why is the weird follow thing in the beginning of the episode? But that's fine. They have this talk, pretty much explaining everything that's going on, and as it all goes on, pretty much at the end, it's the idea of Chin being, hey, give Lu the phone. Lu will look at the phone. Oh no, it's the wrong phone. And, oh no, they're leaving, right? Oh no, and Ching has a second of looking around like, oh no, I'll stay here with Lu and Qiao. As Xing is, Officer Xiao runs off after Chen Bing. And as all of this goes on, it's like, oh no, they got a photo, and that's how they got Chen Bing. As we cut over to Chen Bing's house, where we see his wife, and his wife is sort of sitting there and like, oh man, what happened to the photo here? I guess Chen Bing took it off because he was wanting to put a different one on of the daughter, right? Oh man, he's such a good father. Oh no, what's going to happen to him? As it's pretty much just this idea of cutting back to him, the wife, Zhao Li, and of course Chen Bing dead on the car, as it's sort of just like, oh man, Chen Bing's dead, and his wife and his daughter sort of have nothing else to go off of now. It's just like a very sad fate, and yeah, it's really executed really well here. I mean, as much of a bad situation as it is, it really is done very much justice in this episode. But as all this just is going on, we see that the nearly dead officer, or Chin Bean on the car, he sort of lets out like a brief, like, little bit of tears, sort of like that he's crying for his wife at the same time. And at this point, it's pretty much his idea of Chin's like, hey, Xiaoli, what's going on? Like, what's going on out there? As Qiao has the idea, oh, we'll look at the surveillance video on the phones. We look at it, and she sees that Chin Bean is dead, and Xiaoli is also there. And it's this big idea, like, holy shit, right? As Xing and Kuao run out of the room, like, all right, we're going to go do this. We're going to be the strike team for this mission. We're going to avenge those two in a way, right? As we also see that Xiao Li comes over, and he gets hit on the head with a pipe, showing that he is also very much possibly dead at the same time, right? Yeah, both of Xiao Li and Chin Bean may not be making it out of this whole thing alive, right? At this point, Xin and Qing and Kuao run out of the room, and as they're running out, Lu uses his sort of mass networking powers to sort of look over the whole building. He's like, all right, the killers are over here, and over here, right? Chin, if you make a left, you're going to go hit him, right? Quao, do a left at the same time. So they're just sort of fighting around as we sort of cut down to a shady dude just walking down the hall. It's the same shady dude from earlier who was with Officer Jean at Chin Bean's house, right? Obviously showing that he was probably the one that pushed Chin Bean off the building. So they're sort of just walking around, and it is a shady dude walking around as Quao finds him, and they sort of get into a little bit of a fight in a way, but not really too much. It's sort of like a word fight. As next thing that happens is, shady dude starts to run away, and Chin sort of just jumps down the stairs for just like a flying kick in the dude's face. And the dude's just like, oh no, what am I going to do, right? If Officer Jean finds out, the higher ups finds out, what am I going to do? Like, oh no. Like, oh man, I know, dude. I'll just kill both of you, right? Just showing that this guy is absolutely insane. And we get this about 3-minute fight scene as they all just keep fighting back and forth. And it's a really just beautifully animated fight scene with like great choreography. You can obviously tell what's going on. The animation is super, super fluid. But they just keep going back and forth, just punching, kicking, doing everything. Showing that Ching and Quao are very powerful, but at the same time, they're not really strong enough to overcome this dude until sort of Ching gets him in a certain hold and sort of starts to flip him over backwards onto the ground. But he holds his feet on the glass, or just like keeping him in this motion. But Quao comes in with them, those like rolling cart things, and takes it, and just uses one of the legs as like a point and just shoves it into his belly. And just like really takes the air out of him and knocks him down on the ground. They tie up the guy, and the guy just starts laughing like, oh man, my boys are about to get you, right? You guys are about to be dead. And as they tie him up, all these other people sort of appear out of nowhere as they sort of start appearing from the sides down the stairways, and they just suddenly appear. And Xing and Cloud is like, oh shit, what's going on here? This isn't good, right? As all of a sudden we cut over to Lou, where he's sort of finally getting up to close the door. He's not in the best condition to do it, but as he goes to close and lock the door, we see a hand come in the door and sort of just hold it there and start to pull back, as we see it's the same silhouette of the hoodie and the yellow hair of the supposed killer that we know. So, oh no, the killer is coming to see Lou? What's going on here? And we also see in the same time where Ching and Quao are, all the people are appearing, but at the very end we see two other silhouettes sort of appear, and they seem like they are on not only Quao and Ching's side, but against all the other people. And it's this big idea of, okay, looks like we got our next episode figured out, because this is where the episode actually ends, with the ending, which is The Tides by Fan Ka. It's alright. It's not the best song with the best animation like the opening, but it's an ending, so it doesn't really need to be, right? But, next episode is pretty obvious what's going to be going on. It's going to be Lou and the killer sort of talking it out while we get some more fight scenes with Quao and Xing against all of these, mysterious people under the command of Captain Jean. So, what's really going on here? We will figure that out next episode. This is an alright episode. I'm not really the biggest fan of it. It does a lot to show sort of the emotion of, alright, Chin Bean's family, makes sense, all of that stuff works. Now that he's dead, his wife's sad, and he's sad, and oh no, what's happened to Captain Shao? Is Captain Shao dead? I mean, I wouldn't think that they'd kill him off that easily, but there is a very good case. Yeah, getting a lead pipe to the head would be something or another to kill you, right? And it's obvious that the people who killed him are obviously the reinforcement that crazy dude got at their end of the episode, right? Who are these others that appeared with Quao and Ching? Are they on their team? Are they on the bad team? We don't really know yet. We'll just see next time. This was a very solid episode. I'd personally give it like a 7 out of 10. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but it also wasn't terrible at the same time. And if you enjoyed this video on link click, in the thumbnail, because I feel like I know what the thumbnail is going to be for this episode, but I don't really have it done yet. I feel like it'll be pretty cool once it's done. So, if you did enjoy the video, hopefully you wouldn't, mind considering subscribing and pretty much doing all the things that we YouTubers ask you to do. If you did enjoy the video, comment on the video down below. Tell me, what do you think about this episode of Link Click? And hey, what are your thoughts on it? If you liked it, give it a like and all that good stuff. And with that, I don't really have too much else to say. Good episode, Link Click. I'll be back next time with Season 2, Episode 3. And yeah, this would be Glowplasma231.